Alright, let's rewind time, go back to 2003 when Ubisoft was quite a well-revered game publisher and developer. And the time when they released Prince of Persia, The Sands of Time. The beginning of a trilogy which is well-revered. I think I already used that word before. which was well revered and well loved by a lot of fans even till this date. That said though, let me just give a small disclaimer, well I don't know, an information that this year was the first time that I ever played the Sands of Time in my entire life. I never played it before and I played it twice, and this is the third time that I'm going in so that I can make this video, and that's about it. Before that, I only played the Two Thrones and I was a big fan of that too, not gonna lie. So anyways, going into this game for the first time this year, the first playthrough was really annoying, not gonna lie. Especially the combat, that's what like really irked me a lot. But when I played it second time, after understanding, after reading the manual that is available on Steam, I did not know about that. So after reading that, after understanding it, and when I played it for a second time after that, I still have thoughts about it, but definitely it's not as bad as how my experience was on the first time around. So anyways, without further ado, let's just hop right into it. I'll start a new game and then I might even use up one of these other save files just to jump into certain specific parts where I have to say some things. So anyways, hopping in. Alright, so here we are in the tutorial section, the first cutscene, and right away I have the first major compliment for this game is the freaking art style, dude. I understand that the pixels and stuff are not exactly very modern and outdated, but even though the color scheme that they have used, the way the colors are, is just very pleasing to the eyes, and it is very great over here. And it actually, in my opinion, it's still relevant. It stood the stand of the exact word I can't even remember, dude. And also apart from that, that narration that was being done by the prince himself, as if like he's telling the story to someone. Which, spoiler alert, well, so much for spoilers. It's like, how many years old is it now? 2 decades old. A spoiler for 2-decade-old game. He's reciting the story to Farah. So anyways, that reciting style is really, that style of narration of telling the story is really amazing, and I like it a lot. And again, just now you just saw over there how the environment reacts to the prince's presence also. Back in 2003, I think, I'm not sure too much about it, but I think this is a pretty big deal for that time period, because, well, there's no because. I don't know too much about games from that period, because I never really was fortunate enough to have a gaming childhood. It's only as an adult that I finally am able to experience all these things that I wanted to back then. But yeah, it's really cool that that such kind of effects are there in this game, and I just like it a lot. And then comes in the music of this. I think in the menu itself, we all heard that amazing fusion music that is there with Persian style, and also bringing in some rock and stuff, which is really great. Took down the first enemy. That is a tutorial enemy. They gave the tutorials over here on my first playthrough. I just missed all of those things and it was a really pain in the ass over there. As I told you, that fusion music, I just love them. For those who have watched my Hades review, you know how much I love it when rock music and classical music are like, I really wish that I could actually speak properly when I'm recording. It's just words just disappears from my head. So anyways, the combat is there to talk about, but let's first talk about the movement over here, dude. I have to talk about this art style even now, man. The art style is so good. And here we have the weird slow motion over here. As I said, there are some things in this game that are really weird. For example, that sword motion is so not necessary, but it's there, and we have to deal with it for every single time. So the basic of the gameplay is, of course, that you need to find your way around all the rubbles of war, or well, rubbles of war is apt enough description, and you need to use your various parkour methods that you have. You've already seen some of those things that I have done already. Sorry for talking over the prince over here. Hopefully that's not confusing for everyone. If I find it confusing, then I'll just mute his part over here. That's the best way while editing. And then we have the healing system over here too, that where we just need to drink some water to heal ourselves. Unfortunately, I took no damage in that, so I cannot show you. Talking about the combat, as you have already seen, it's a very acrobatic style of combat where you can actually jump over enemies and then deal damage to them. And again, it's not only limited to that, but even you can actually use the walls to actually bounce off them and do a kind of a more super move where that has the capacity to knock down any foes whatsoever. So which is really helpful. Although right now I don't really need it. The primary way of combat, the best way of combat is basically just doing your counters. Honestly, at first time I did not know about the counters, and it was such a terrible time because the enemies take a lot of time to kill. These enemies are tutorial enemies, so they don't take too much of time. So, when the things get escalated, after that the enemies, the sand monsters basically, those come, those are really something. So as you can see over here, it's like really focused on all these movement aspects, although again still now it's just the beginning of the game, so it's really toned down right now. There's nothing much going on, and things does get wrapped up a bit, although again there is a but, is that it doesn't exactly ramps up too much. For the most part, the combat, the platforming and stuff over here just remains very simple, very cinematic, if I have to say. And again, right over here, you can see those arts in the walls. Those are like this particular part is like the entire game actually happens in India, and that's actually Indian art style over there. Ubisoft has always been very good in creating and recreating all these ancient structures, and it shows over here. Again, these things are not exactly in 3D, as you can see over here. They are just paper drawings, but the thing is there. It's like that is genuinely how Indian art is, and it's not only limited to that exactly. Even later on, we reach the bedchambers, and even there we basically encounter some paintings, and those paintings, the art style, the paint of those paintings is genuinely how Indian art used to look like. Of course, modern times have changed now, but if you look at ancient Indian art, that's exactly how it really looks, based on all the colors and the way the patterns are drawn and all the objects are drawn over there, which is again very minute attention to detail, which is really great. And again, we just have these platforming sections where we just need to find our way around, doing all sort of monkey business, and then reach our objective, and then just keep moving on. That's the whole thing.
Continue my story from here the next time we're interrupted.
Example of the narration stuff again. I just love it. I just love it how much they focus on this narration. It's really charming the way the prince narrate everything that happens, and even actually when I can, I'll just try to die once. Then you guys will see like what he does when he dies. It's just so cute, man. It's just so cute. Dagger of Sand, the thing that we need, the thing that the entire premise of the game is that dagger. So here we are again in the introduction of the few traps that we are gonna type of traps that we are going to face in the game. These are exactly the traps that comes out in the game also later on, and then we need to avoid these basically. Nothing too much going on over there. Very simple. I missed the jump over there. I need to wall run over here actually. You see, this is one major problem with the game. Look at this. Look at me. Like, oh my goodness, the camera. I have had bad experiences with cameras before, and this is gotta be one of the worst cameras that I have faced in any video games, and that causes a lot of problems. This is the first major complaint of this game that I have, and it just came out right at the beginning itself. I did not even need to go into the bit more tougher parts of the game in order to express this. Fuck, I pressed the wrong button. So yeah, the camera is absolutely horrible. It's at times it becomes a fixed camera, and it does all fixed camera stuff, which is really nuisance. I don't like fixed cameras, but whereas the game generally has full player control camera, and yet they chose to make some fixed camera settings over here, which is again fine. But if the angles need to be a lot better for what they are doing over here. Sometimes some angles are really horrendous, and it's really annoying, especially during combat sections. It is just asininely bad. I just remember on my first playthrough how many times I died just because the camera is not good. Oftentimes I try to do something else and the prince just ends up it's not try to do something else. They're like, I want to stab a different enemy, but because of the camera, the prince ends up hitting other enemy, which actually brings out the second problem of the game, is that the prince auto aims on enemies. That's the big problem. Like, I cannot choose which enemy I want to aim at. The prince automatically homes into one enemy, and then he's just gonna focus on it. There are ways to definitely undo that. There definitely are ways to undo that. Undo that in the sense, like, I can manipulate the prince a tad bit. But at the end, though, it's still a big, massive annoyance throughout the entire game, and it just does not go away through and through. It doesn't. It's very annoying. So now with the Dagger of Time on our hand, the Dagger of Sand in our hands, we have our powers activated over there, as you can see. We have a few sand tanks. Based on that, we can reverse time, which is like well-known thing. This is Prince of Persia after all. Again, look at this. They put the camera in this angle, and then they just make it so difficult to turn my camera around, and there's no sensitivity thing or anything like that. The camera just gets stuck in some angles, and it's just absolutely massive nuisance throughout the entire game. So here we are in the thick of things now. Now all the monsters are sand, and I cannot just kill them straight up. I have to actually absorb the sand like that from them, which is a very interesting mechanic. I just love this thing a lot, that you need to actually do a finisher in order to actually finish off the monsters. Otherwise they don't completely die.
The sands that possess them.
Again, the prince is narrating his feelings throughout this entire thing, which is really great. And Farah was actually telling me regarding how to deal with these monsters before. All great stuff, great stuff. The starting monsters are really simple. You can just vault over them and then finish them off. There's nothing much too complicated about them. Just sucked out the sand. Later on, there are some enemies, mainly blue-colored enemies, that can actually counter your vault over. Essentially, they won't let you vault over. If you try to vault over them, they'll just pushes you aside and you drop dead. Not drop dead, but you'd fall flat into the ground. And trust me, in this game, you do not want to be surrounded by enemies while lying back on the ground. And this is the save system of the game, where not only it acts as a save system, it actually shows you a bit towards what you're going to be doing in the near future for the parkour stuff, any fighting also. And then based on that, it's kind of a hint where you exactly need to go, and of course you get the choice to save stuff. So, and anytime you want to watch that vision again, you just need to hop into that thing once again, and you'll get the option to do it. So that's the basic thing of it. You just have to go from room to room, do all the parkour stuff, and reach the next enemy area, fight them off, do another set of parkours, and then go into the enemy. There are just 2 bosses in the game, which is a massive letdown. And even bigger of a letdown is that none of those 2 bosses are good. That both of them are absolutely shit show. They are not good at all. They don't even feel like bosses, to be honest. As you can see, at the basic level, the game is very well set up and it's really fun. Although after that, the problem starts to crop in little by little. So now let's talk about this parkour stuff a bit, now that we are fairly up ahead. Again, we are in a bedchamber, and look at all these environment, man. This is so beautiful. So beautiful. You can refill your stuff like this, and that is done, and whatnot. Refill your sand tanks essentially if they are less, and then if you absorb them, you can see slightly a moon-shaped thing right beside the balls. If there's a certain number of that, if you get those, then you get a special ability where everything pauses and you can just one-shot or two-shot enemies, which is really great. It's kind of a devil trigger mode, if you will. And as I was saying about this, look at that painting over there. This is how Indian paintings do look like. And they actually recreated all these things and put this on the bedchamber of the kings exactly like this. It is really great. Look at that. I just love these aesthetics that they have done over here. So anyways, I was talking about the I was about to talk about the parkour. So parkour for the most part is, you can do a lot of things. You can swing around, you can wall run, which is really cool. Wall run just is absolutely just freaking awesome. And then you can jump, which is really basic. But where the problem comes in is that these are all more or less cinematic stuff. You just don't even need to think too much about getting these things right, and you'll just get them right without any issues. There are, of course, some situations where you do need to pay attention to what you're doing exactly, because if you don't do it, and then you'll just end up missing the timing for those, and you might die, or you might well.
Had I really
You
seen
might have to redo stuff. Oh, there you go. Look at that. So there's the rewind time thing. I should have done a run up over here.
Maharaja's treasure room.
So essentially, if you missed it, then that's one thing that you might have to do, and you have to use up a sand tank and whatnot. But essentially, it's not really that hard to miss any of these jumps and whatnot. And as I said, there are certain times, like this was one time, where you need to time your things right, or do things a bit more precisely. Not exactly precisely, but do a sort of run up just so that you can reach the distance. And sometimes while doing a wall run, you may have to time your leap off more precisely so that you do not miss a pillar and fall down to your death. But for the most part, though, it's really simple. You don't have to pay too much attention. Again, in this part, the moment you are swinging over there, there's no way in hell you're gonna ever miss that. So it's not that too hard to get through this parkour stuff, which on my first playthrough it was kind of a disappointment, but on the second playthrough I was like, yeah, okay, fine, it's fun enough. Where they could have done really well over here is that if they would have, just a small example, is that in the point where I was doing that spinny thing on that, I don't know what to call, handle. So they could have just done one thing over there, is like make it such that the player have to determine the angle at which they need to jump in order to use that handle effectively, otherwise they'll fall to the death. But again, those things are not there, unfortunately, so it is what it is. And again, there are those trap sections also, which is another problem over there, which I will probably talk after I reach a trap section. That will be a lot better to tell and show. This is actually one section where you need to be a bit more precise, or you need to use your brain a bit more in order to get past it. So as you can see over there, but it's kind of a weird mixture where for the most part you definitely just go through the motions without putting much thought, but then there are these certain sections where you need to put a bit more thought in it, and I actually like it. Although I would have actually preferred more to have it the way I explained it. But this is fine too, at least for me personally, on the second playthrough and the third playthrough over here. Alright, we gotta talk about this one thing over here. This is a little system over here that is relevant later on, also later on, as in like in the sequels over here. This is the way we can actually increase our HP bar over here. You need to find these secret places which are not so secret in nature, and you just need to walk up to it and get the fountain. Personally, what they I don't remember how it was in the Warrior Within, but in this game it is like this, and personally I prefer what was like in the Two Thrones, where you need to do a little platforming section in order to get to it and get to the fountain and then increase your HP bar. I liked it a lot more over there.
Strange. I feel wonderful.
These narrations are just so good, man. These are so good. Unfortunately, they could not replicate the same thing over again in the sequels of this game. Really unfortunate. Now that we've met Farah over here, there is actually one thing that I need to address. Another problem that is there is the sound levels, the audio mixing, if you will. It's really bad, at least during gameplay. During cutscenes it's fine, but when during the gameplay sections, oftentimes the prince and Farah oftentimes exchanges dialogues, and it's just so difficult to actually hear what they are saying. It's really bad. I remember the first time when I just faced all of these things. You're just killing some bugs, and he does that slow motion cheating, this animation over here. I mean, like, You're just killing some bugs, buddy. What the fuck is wrong with you styling up like that? Let me just quickly die because I want to show you something. Wait till the sand timer runs out. That's another bit of a drag.
That didn't happen.
See that? There's some other dialogues also, like in one he goes no 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 no. I just love it so much. But anyways, let's hop on into an old save game because I want to jump into certain parts of the story and where I can actually showcase more stuff. Okay, let's go in, or maybe let's go in over here this way. So I already talked about the problems with the parkour stuff, and although I do want to address some other stuff also about the parkour, but for now, let's just go into this real quick and wait a minute. What did I do? So again, a little thing over here, like as you can see, mixing the parkour with the traps and stuff. Oops. This is what I really want. Or I wish that there was more in this game. But it's just another one of these. Never mind, I'll just skip that. And this is what I was talking about earlier. It's just during gameplay, the voices are so small, I just cannot hear what they are exactly talking about. Which is really unfortunate because sometimes when I do hear them, their conversations, their back and forth are really cute. And I wish I could have actually heard them a lot more in comparison to what I can hear right now. And again, these are the kind of sections that I really like over here, where the prince and Farah goes like hand in hand, partnering up to crack through the puzzles, kind of puzzles. Not exactly they aren't exactly too tough of a puzzles over here, but they are just okay. Wait, what? I did not activate these. On. But it's a good actually spot to actually talk about these things. Again, we have these sections where there are traps all over the place, and we need to go through all the traps. Again, really great on the concept, and it is actually quite fun to do these, but unfortunately where the problem comes in over here is that they do not involve any parkour stuff, and that is kind of really disappointing that we don't use parkour in order to get through all these traps and all. At least not as much.
No permanent damage, thank you.
In general, overall, the game has a problem of pacing, for the lack of better term. Pacing in a sense like there is way too much sections where we just do blend parkour like this, or some just trap avoidance without parkour, and then we reach an area where there's enemies. It's like they are segmented separately and they don't exactly infuse amongst each other, and they act separately completely. They, in general, in overall, in the grand view of things, in the grand scheme of things, they definitely give an overall enjoyment throughout the entire game. But unfortunately, I can tell very well that if they would have chosen a different approach for this, it would have been even more enjoyable. The primary example of this is actually Prince of Persia, the Warrior Within, the sequel to this game, where things were a bit more cohesive amongst each other, and it was a lot more fun in comparison. At least personally, I found it more fun. Once again, you have to see all these art style over here. It just looks so beautiful. Look at those curtains floating in the wind. This is great. The game just looks really great. Even on 2024, I just love how this game looks. And here we have more platforming that is disguised as platforming. Mostly what this game's platforming is like, it's more than execution. It's more about finding the right way to go through, which is in its own a pretty decent stuff, but it could have been a lot better in comparison if they would have made it a bit more about execution. I think the primary comparison that I can right now make is actually one of another very old game. I've been recently playing the old Tomb Raiders, the very old ones, the remastered that have come up, and in those games, the platforming is really fun, despite it being such that there isn't too much going on in platforming. That literally the only platforming thing in that game is the fact that you can jump over there from platform to platform. But the thing is that the jumping is so much dependent upon our proper jumping is so much dependent on our proper execution, is that it's very fun to just do that one simple mechanic continuously, and I haven't gotten bored of that at all. And this is the thing that I was talking about. It's really the fast devil trigger. You can do a lot of things over here. Not a lot of things, you can just kill everyone very easily, which makes things a lot interesting, to say the least. And this thing is very important. Oops. And this thing is very important because one major problem that this game has in terms of combat is the fact that there's just way too many enemy spawns. It's just way too many enemy spawns. Sure, after you know the system, you can still make a quick job, a quick work of the enemies, but even after that, especially towards the end game, the enemy spawn just feels abysmal. And also, there was one section where there was elite, just filled with elite enemies, a bunch of them, and it is so annoying to deal with them because the elite enemies, you cannot jump over them, and even if you like direct sand counter them, let me just show you the sand counter. If someone attacks me, and this is another problem that this game has. It's like I cannot exactly aim at the enemy and cannot adjust my camera properly, so I cannot do the counter properly, and I just get hit oftentimes. You see that? It's okay, there you go. So this is a sand counter, you can instantly kill them. My goodness, that was so annoying. So the enemy spawn is one problem of this combat system that they have designed, and the bigger problem is of course the camera. I mean, the camera and the auto aim is just a curse for this game. They really should have implemented something else in order to handle the combat, and this is like, seriously, without, I think even with these many spawns, enemy spawns, if the camera and the aiming system or targeting system of the game would have been better, I wouldn't have had this bad of a time, but unfortunately it is what it is. And so not only that, we have other abilities over here too. As I said, we can actually do a jumping wall hop from here, which is a really useful tool, especially against those elite enemies, because no one can exactly resist, or not exactly resist. I mean, you literally saw someone block it right now. Just a basic ass enemy just block that attack, but the thing is that they cannot counter this attack. So you're pretty safe whenever you do that, unless someone else hit you from the side. And now talking about the combat, I present you the worst thing about this game's combat. It's when you are in middle of a platforming section like this, and then you come in face with these enemies, the flying enemies. Holy shit, you cannot block, you cannot jump over them, you cannot exactly hit them. And they can make you fall down like this, lose balance. They're like at the game's mercy all the time. I don't know if there is any sort of way to deal with this effectively or more effectively. I hope there is, and I hope if anyone who plays this game like me for the first time figures it out, but oh my goodness, these are so bad. And it's not the end of it. There are other sections also where you find bats. They just come in, and then you end up swinging a sword like some old man wailing about, trying to scare off children who are trying to steal fruits from his garden. It's really bad. It's really bad. Just a quick thing that I forgot to mention yesterday while recording is that about the combat itself. The combat, the way it is designed, is a lot more focused on positioning of yourself, your player character, in comparison to the enemies. That's how you actually deal with everything. Your position in relation to active enemies, your position in relation to enemies who are on the ground, your position in relation to the objects, mainly the walls, from which you can bounce off to, and such that. And again, at the basic level of it, the idea is really great. The idea is very solid. However, the implementation, just like in all the other aspects, has been done poorly. And again, the blame goes primarily to the camera. The camera makes it really hard to actually control the character, which makes positioning a bit difficult. And on top of that, there is the problem of the enemies themselves, who just happens to teleport all over the place to get close to you, which makes your positioning a little bit of useless. Not entirely, but it definitely does impact a bit. Again, they definitely do need a teleportation ability to challenge the player, but however, I think the way the rate of teleportation and the frequency of teleportation has to be brought into under control, or some other measures. So that's it, I think, for the overview that I can put in through the playthrough stuff. But apart from that, there are puzzles over there too. The puzzles are really great, I have to give it to them, and they're really interesting. So that's how as I said, that's how the game flows. You do some platforming, you avoid traps, get into an area, kill enemies, and then continue doing more things. In between there will be cutscenes, and there are 2 bosses. So that's the flow of the game, which is overall really entertaining somehow. I say somehow because, as I said, the combat is very annoying with that camera thing, and that camera thing also is something that is a bane for the platforming too. There are sections where the camera is so poorly placed that it becomes very difficult to adjust your jump, or even see where you're exactly jumping, or even manage the angle of the jump that you want to jump in. This again another problem that is resolved well by the classic Tomb Raiders, where the platforms are small and all those terms. The camera is really weirdly placed. But the thing is that in classic Tomb Raider, your forward just means forward. When you push up on your joystick, it doesn't matter which direction your character is facing. That's just the forward walking thing, and at times that can be also a problem, and that's not the best way to do it. But it's actually a lot better implemented, and it's a lot more focused, if I have to say that. Because in here what happens is that at times you have flexible camera. Even if you have flexible camera, it's kind of stiff, and at times there's no flexible camera, and then you have to adjust your angles with your direction buttons, which is really wonky. It just doesn't feel good. And these things get carried over during the combat sections also, which makes the combat really annoying at times, especially when fighting elite enemies with a bunch of them. So that is one of the major setback of this game, which can just make you very annoyed. At least it made me very annoyed during the first playthrough. But then again, we have other issues, like for example the bosses. Again, I already addressed this. Like, the bosses are absolutely terrible. They don't even feel like bosses over here. And of course there is the platforming sections, which are more about finding your way out, which can be entertaining. As I said, in Tomb Raider, again, the way the scenarios are designed over there, the way the game is set up, it's more interesting. And in here, the interesting thing comes out from the fact that we can do a lot of stuff, but I still prefer of a means to actually make them a bit more execution oriented. It's again example of the classic Tomb Raiders, where I'm just doing the simple jump, but it's so much into the execution of the jump and the ledge grabbing is that I just enjoyed doing the simple thing, and I'm having a really great time with playing that game. So this is it for Prince of Persia: Sands of Time. It's a really amazing game, really ahead of its time for that time period. All the music, the art style, it's so good, and the combat system at the base level, it is very great. I don't know if Ubisoft will ever be able to put out a remake of this game, given what kind of condition they are in right now. But if they do, then I hope they just actually polish these things. That is what this game really needs at this point. It just needs a proper polish. They need better camera controls, they need to streamline the combat system, and they need to put parkour systems that are, or platforming sections that are more focused on the execution of it. And the puzzles are there, they don't need to change anything about the puzzles. I do want the voice acting and music to come back, but I don't know how much they will be able to pull through if they ever choose to make it or remake it again. But then again, fingers crossed, hopefully they might able to pull it off. Overall, it's a really magical experience. That is how this game exactly feels right from the get-go. It's a magical experience, and oftentimes I keep on reading on internet comments. It's like kind of Arabian Nights kind of settings, and whenever they say Arabian Nights, it's something magical, and it genuinely feels magical. It just feels so good to be going around the world, even though it's not an open world. It's just a linear to the T world, and it's just so fun. It's so fun to play around. Still though, the kind of drawbacks that it does definitely make it a relic of the past. In comparison to modern games, the modern titles, some other games, there are so many games that I can name, but so let's just leave it. But in comparison to a lot of modern games, in terms of gameplay aspect, it definitely does fall short. It's still fun, but when I just put it on a scale with other games that does other things, for example, for what to say about parkour, Assassin's Creed, for parkour, the Assassin's Creed Unity, or Assassin's Creed Brotherhood in terms of parkour. Sure, they don't have movements like that, but again, the execution of the parkour demands so much more precision in comparison. Comparatively, is just lot more better, and I think this game can improve a lot. And in terms of combat, let's be honest, there are so many things that so many games that does it right. And the parry mechanic is just done really well by Sekiro. Then we have Jedi Survivors or Jedi Fallen Order. So, and if we go by hack and slash, then I won't compare it with Devil May Cry. Sure, that is a bit too much, but well, Dark Souls, I can compare that. Or Ghost of Tsushima, God of War. And now, you know what, I don't like God of War 2018 too much. I prefer this one over God of War 2018. Hate me all you want. So anyways, that's the coverage of Prince of Persia Sands of Time. Thank you everyone for watching, and I hope to see you guys on the next one. I will be covering Warrior Within next, and at the same time I am covering up Ghost of Tsushima. So stay tuned for that. I know there's still requirements for a bit more improvement in the format. I'm still new in this, so excuse me for it. I hope the improvements come sooner than later. And apart from that, please do check out our Discord server over there. We have a very small community, and it would be great if we can grow and become a bit more active in there. So yeah, once again, thank you for tuning in, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Bye bye.